Hey guys, it's me, Bugman. I'm back, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about Marvel Strike Force and bring you a tier list for the most recent update in January 2021 with Iceman and Kitty Pryde and all that. And I wanted to talk to you guys about which characters I think are best. So I have up currently, I didn't waste time today to show you the actual game of Marvel Strike Force. I was straight into the tier list. This is the one I did the last time I did a tier list, which was the Squirrel Girl update, which is probably roughly 4 or 5 months ago. And I just want to start out with this because I want you guys to see how much things have changed in my mind. So as you can see, this is how I had everything before. Soak it in right here. Here's the bottom tier. I like this tier list, but I think the most significant thing you'll see change from this past one to my current one is, well, one, I didn't even look at this when I made my next tier list. I sort of just went straight off of how I felt the game was going and which I thought were the best characters. And I also think there are a lot of new, very strong characters that booted down a lot of people. And I think, I'm a lot harder on a lot of other characters nowadays. I think Defenders, I'm really coming down on Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a lot of those characters I really think need to get better. So without further ado, let's take a look at that new tier list of mine. Here is my brand new Marvel Strike Force tier list. Now, I know a lot of people sometimes have problems with this. They say, hey, this character's better if they're with these characters, or this character's really good if you put them in this team. And I think that's true. And I think a lot of other people make tier lists that account for the fact that characters are better on certain teams, are only good for certain modes. But I think it's a little overwhelming to new players to games like this. And I just want to make a very simple tier list where I just rated overall how good do I think characters are, accounting for maybe they're really good in some modes but really bad in others, accounting for whether or not they need teams, that kind of stuff. That's how I built this tier list right here. So it's just overall, how good is a character? Generally speaking, if they're an S tier, worthwhile to build up in your roster. If they're an F tier, don't build them up in your roster. And then, the more detailed analysis of the characters I'll save for other people. But I just want people to be able to look at this and just say, these are who are good characters. And of course, if you have any thoughts on this, I always like to hear it down below, and I will keep it in mind for the next time I make a tier list. But let me talk about some of my decisions on this tier list and some changes. First off, F tier, I got way more aggressive on F tier. I think with so many other good characters in the game, with a pretty hefty mid tier, I really crunched down on F tier right here, and I put pretty much the entire hand, no, except for Hand Sentry, I put the entire Hand faction here, all the Ravagers, I put the leftover minions who still don't have a team, and then Okoye and Night Nurse. All these characters drastically need a rework. All of those characters have needed rework since they have come out to the game. They've always been bad, all these characters. Well, Night Nurse had a bit of a time to shine in the early days of the game before like any other healer came out, but these characters are so bad, they need a touch up. They're just absolute garbage tier. E tier, I pretty much put, that's where I start out most minions if they have a team to go on. The problem I have with minions is they're good. A lot of minions' effects are limited by their leading character. For example, Ronin, he's the one that makes those Kree minions good. Red Skull, he is the one that makes these Hydra minions really strong. Nick Fury's the one that makes these shield minions really strong. It's not really the minions are more supplementing the leader of their team and stuff like that. So that's why I put them down there. On an individual basis, most of these minions are not that valuable, and that's where we lean to the D tier. That's why I put some of the minions that do have value. Shield Medic, Hand Sentry, Mercenary Lieutenant, Mercenary Riot Guard, I think are, and Aim Assaulter and Aim Security, I think are the good minions that I think actually can stand on their own a little bit, even without a leader to support them on their team. And in the E tier, I did also put a couple of heroes that I just thought were bad, but not necessarily F tier bad. I think M'Baku, Storm, Yondu, and Spider-Man all need a big touch-up. Spider-Man, never been that good of a character. You got a tiny rework. M'Baku never really was that good of a character. Storm, her kit needs condensed. You have this whole like 25 charge system. They need to take all those benefits you get over 25 charges and condense it to 5 charges. It just doesn't, there's no situation in this game where she will have 25 turns. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why they don't change her system. It does not work right now. It's never worked. Yondu, similar to Ravagers, he just doesn't have a team. He has some good stuff in his kit, but he needs a place to go. He needs some people to work with. Back to the D tier though, along with those minions I think that stand out above the rest, I put a lot of the other characters I think need a bit of a touch up to get to where I think they need to be. I put all the Defenders here. The Defenders need a touch up all around. Korath, I think he needs a little bit more. You'll see I put a lot of Mercenaries in the C and the D tier. Mercenaries, I think, well, first off, they're pretty dependent on Taskmaster, but I think they're better than a lot of the other minions without Taskmaster. What I'd really like to see is a lot of their war defense benefits maybe transferred just being normal benefits. I think they are a little too reliant on ward defense to be useful, as opposed to a lot of other teams. I think they really drop off if you're not using them in ward defense. So that's why I put a lot of mercenaries down pretty low. Some other characters we have are just people I don't think are that great, you know, Mystique, Wasp, Wolverine, Heimdall, the Sinister Six that get cut from the team when you put Dr. Octopus on it, Toad. You know, these characters that I think are just, they're not that good. I'd say they're the weak link of their teams. You know, Mystique is on a good team with the Marauders. Karnak, he's on a good team with the Inhumans. Heimdall's on a good team with the Asgardians. It just, I'd consider them the weakest link, and I think if there's any character on that team that needs a bit of a touch-up, I think those are the characters that need a little bit of a rework. C tier characters I think are pretty decent overall. I wouldn't mind if C tier's got a bit of a buff. I think some of them could use it. You know, Psylocke, Pyro, Miles Morales. I think they could use a bit of a boost. Same thing for Quake and stuff like that. But these are characters I think that function well. I think they're good enough. I think they're nobody outstanding, but they're sort of run-of-the-mill characters you'll put on a team. They're core to a lot of teams. Not the reason why the teams excel, but they get their job done, and I don't mind them as characters. Not much to talk about here. Some notable characters I think could get booted down. I think Swarm, borderline garbage without Dr. Octopus, but I don't know, he just gets so good with Dr. Octopus, and he's, you know, he's not horrible without Dr. Octopus. America Chavez, I think she could use a bit of a touch-up right there. I think Miles Morales, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, Pyro, you know, I'm a little iffy on them. But overall, I think these characters are just not much to say. I think they're fine. Next up, we have B tier characters. I think these guys have some stuff in their kit that makes them really good. We're starting to get into some of these leaders like Red Skull. He kind of leads the team. You know, Ghost Rider, I think he's probably one of the best parts of the Supernatural team. I think he's the only thing that keeps that team above water. You know, Supernatural, as you can see, I have most of them in the mid tier, some of them below mid tier. I think Supernatural needs a touch up along with Defenders. Power Armor's in mid tier. Guardians of the Galaxy are falling down here into the mid tier. I think those teams need some touch ups. But if we look up at the B tier, we have a lot of the current meta teams. You know, we have some of the Black Order up here. We have some of the Marauders up here. We have some of the Pimp Tech and the Skeleton team and the new X-Men team up here. I think these are some other really incredible characters that have recently come to the game. Falcon, I think he stands out amongst his Power Armor comrades. I think he's very strong, actually some really great stuff in his kit. I think Cable's one of the better characters for the X-Force with his whole charge, and now he can go pretty much twice back to back. I might be a little too generous with these Avengers right here. I like Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye. I think they're strong characters. I don't know. You could maybe convince me. Maybe they don't belong in the B tier, but I do like them. I think Drax, I think he's the best Guardian simply for his taunt. It's very unique in this game, but which leads very well into the A tier because there's Red Guardian, and I think he does what Drax does, except better. And then we have some of the symbiotes. We have the new X Factor characters. I think the X Factor team is very good. I think these characters, I don't know if any of them will ever go to S tier, but I expect the rest of the X Factor members to be A tier characters as well. A lot of leaders that I think have fallen off a little bit. Star-Lord, Magneto, Nick Fury used to be S tier characters. I wouldn't say they are anymore, especially when characters like Doctor Doom, Ebony Maw, Ultron up there. I don't think Nick Fury, Star-Lord, Magneto hold their ground anymore. I think new characters like Iceman, really good too. I think he has a lot of potential. And I have some other characters that are decent, but I think there are people that do it better than them. I think, you know, X-23, pretty good. I kind of like Baron Zemo more than X-23, though. Scientist Supreme, not bad. I just don't think your team stands up against a lot of the other meta characters. Cull Obsidian, very good, although he kind of depends on having Ebony Maw or Thanos on his team for really making him useful. And I think Juggernaut's also a very competent character. He's always been very good. Good resistance, very tanky, very difficult to deal with. And then finally, we have the S tier. Not much has changed here. I'd say I put a couple more characters up here. You know, Dr. Octopus, Anti-Venom. They're new since the Ghost, new since the last time I did the tier list, but I think they belong up here. I moved up characters like Emma Frost. She definitely belongs up here. These are just characters I think are really good. Some of them I'd say are a little more team dependent than others. You know, I think Anti-Venom, really, it's mostly the symbiotes team where he's really excelling. You know, Thanos, he's pretty good on his own, but he gets, you know, incredible when he has the whole Black Order team. I'd say Invisible Woman, she's close to an A tier. I'd say she's close to falling off. Maybe Minerva too, but overall I think the S tier are full of very, very strong characters, some of the best in the game. So in conclusion, everyone below C tier I think needs some kind of touch up, whether a drastic rework with the hand or maybe just a little bit of a, changing how much is reliant on war defense with the mercenary team. And everyone above C tier I think are pretty good, and that's kind of where we want other characters to be. But I think overall this is a relatively healthy meta. It's nice when you have a pretty, you want to have the bulk of the characters in this average range where they're good, not incredible, not bad. We have a lot of characters that sort of are better than the mid tier, and we also have a decent amount of characters that fall below what's considered average. So I think this is overall a pretty good meta right now. A lot of diversity in the S tier. A lot of these characters are very competent. They come from a lot of different origins and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan of right now what we have going on in Marvel Strike Force. But again, I'd like to hear what you guys think about my tier list down below. Any changes you think I should make, I will keep that all in mind for the next time I make one of these tier lists. And I know this is a more simplified tier list than a lot of people would like, but at the end of the day, what do I really know? Because I am only a 19-year-old. I hope everyone can have a happy and healthy day. And before I go, I want to show you. I actually have 4 dogs in my room right now. There's the board game shelf from the Come Blitz with me. Anyways, oh, wrong way. There's 1, 2, 3 on my bed right there. You can see 3 of them on my bed. And let me show you the ground. 4th one on the ground. Isn't that kind of exciting? All right. Hey everyone. Have a nice day. Signing off.